Everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and a lot of people thought China is dumping U.S. Treasuries. Well, it appears that is not exactly precisely the case. It seems to be a little bit exaggerated, as this Zero Hedge article says. It's not China that's dumping U.S. Treasuries. And according to the latest TIC data released, the trade war enemy added $8.5 billion in treasuries in February, the most of any nation and the biggest monthly addition in 6 months. But while China, for now, given the lagged data, is still buying, two other notable nations are selling significantly. The second largest foreign U.S. creditor, Japan, that has been liquidating in recent months, and in February, Japan sold $6.3 billion in treasuries, the most of any nation in February, bringing its total to $1.059 trillion, the lowest total since the start of 2012. And, this article goes on, and along with Japan, Russia dumped treasuries for the third straight month to the lowest in a year. John, this... We've been talking about treasuries for a long time, and the idea was that China was dumping all of them. But can you go into what this means? Why? What does this tell us that Japan is selling at such a high rate?
Well, Japan has sold since 2014, when they had their high of 1.25 trillion US dollar treasuries. They are now almost down to 100 billion that they sold off in just about 4 or something years. So they've been selling for a while, and it's been constant. It hasn't been up and down. They've actually been mostly selling. You can see a couple of ups there, but they've mostly been, deleveraging. The main reason that Japan, of course, has been selling is also that their economy is in shambles. They have negative interest rates. They have bought basically most of the stock market, their ETFs. They bought over 90% of their ETFs. They printed trillions upon trillions of yen, of course. So they are...
No way. They centralized things? I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, well, they're going to try to raise money in order to, cover all their debt that they're accumulating. Because the problem in Japan is that they're in a deflationary period. They've been there since 1990s. Their population, their demographics is slowly just even decreasing now. So it's not going to go up. So that's why they're desperate. They need more debt, the banking system, and that's why they got to keep on trying to pump it up with any kind of... They were one of the first ones to talk about helicopter money, for example. But we're going to go over to Russia, of course. We know why Russia is dumping treasuries is because they want to get out of the US dollar hedge. Well, that's for all of them, really. They know what's going to happen with your U.S. empire. Most of these academics that's out there that are sitting there in these central banks, they're quite aware, I believe, of what's happens, throughout history. I don't think any of them are stupid enough that they haven't studied past the 90 years that some seems to have studied by, but who knows? But we're seeing, more and more people that are, countries and people that are getting and exiting out of US dollars. And of course, what's funny is Cayman Islands, of all places, have been accumulating over the last 4 years. They've been accumulating about 100 something billions of US treasuries. So you could see like how Japan bought, and they're using different other countries that it probably make deals with. Who knows what there are? Probably maybe some ESF holding companies that are hanging around, manipulating. And now we saw that with Belgium too back several years ago, where suddenly Belgium bought 300 billion something as there was a massive sell-off in bonds. Yeah. So over to you.
Well, it's important to also mention that at the same time, this coincides with Trump meeting with Japan's premier and talking with Shinzo Abe. And we've gone over the Japanese economy many times in the past. I think it's important to mention that there is a lot of, there's a lot of fear about what's going on with Japan and China and North Korea at the time. There's a lot of disrupting going on. There's a lot of protests happening in Japan that are really quite big. And it would also be important to mention that, a lot of people tried to debunk us a while back ago when we did the report, Your Bank is Bankrupt, talking about how, all the banks are insolvent, and people are saying, yeah, but treasuries and all that, and people are putting so much faith in the treasuries.
Yeah, they said you could just sell, short-term treasuries in order to get cash into the bank. That, at the time when you have a bank run, that means that people are not trusting the system anymore, and you probably see most likely not being able to cover. You saw that with ABLV currently. They're looking at potential balance. It's kind of in limbo right now. It's still like hanging up there. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the bank.
But the question, John, is why would anyone like treasuries? Who wants U.S. treasuries?
Well, U.S. treasuries are very good if you believe in war and if you believe in extorting people. That way, it's a good investment if that's what you believe in.
And it's a pretty lucrative business.
Yeah, and if you believe that the U.S. government will continue to do that, well, that's why you should buy U.S. treasuries. In my point of view, I would stay the far effing way out of it. But if you believe in that, then you should invest, of course, in treasuries and hold it. I want to just mention one more thing about we're talking about the U.S. treasuries getting sold. Well, it was in February, we saw a massive, just kind of blow off top almost in the stock markets in the U.S. And you had foreign buyers buying $57.9 billion of U.S. equities in February. Well, a surprise in March, they sold $1.2 billion in equities. You can see that there's been like sellouts and buys and so all throughout, but it's a trend that has kind of started right now. And of course, there's just an instability in the whole system that we're looking at with all this debt that are just slushing around in the world. And think about, for example, the Japanese bond. You're buying a negative yielding bond, so you actually get less back when if you bought a 30-year term. I don't think any government will be around in 30 years. To be honest with you, I can't see.
I could hope not.
Yeah, I can see how it would sustain itself, to be honest with you. So, investing in any of these things is just highly speculative. A lot of people would say, are you insane saying that it's speculative? Because, banks and financial advisors have said that, you buy bonds, for your older years when you have to have something that's secure. You're not looking for yield, like a whole bunch of yield. You want security, so that's why I buy bonds. Well, today, you are, of course, you see a lot of people because of the low bond yields, they're going to equities, old people that are going into the stock market, which is like in bubble territory as well. And they, if they stayed in debt, well, they are risking a lot as well because debt has become, we're in the epic debt bubble that we created on a global scale. And it's it's going to happen. This whole thing is going to blow up. And if, any country could topple the United States easily. It could be Russia. It could be China. It could be Japan that could just say, screw the United States. We're just going to sell, for example, China and Japan, both of them holds about 1 trillion in U.S. equities. They could just say, well, screw you. We had enough of you. And that would send the United States dollar probably to zero.
Yeah, well, debt is religion to these this global cartel we call the central banking system and governments. And it's so important to mention, as per usual, a populace in debt is a populace in servitude. And, this is going to continue to happen as long as they're just completely made up of manipulation and centralization. We as individuals need to decentralize. That is the most important point we can make. We need to be free and be decentralized, because as long as we're centralized, we are dependent on this almighty being called government and banks. And, they depend on our dependence and our servitude. So it's important that we break free from that. But what's your bottom line, John?
We need to de-detralize. That's a new word. I don't know. I haven't heard it yet, but de-detralize. We need to get out of that deleverage, hide away from all this toxic waste that's slushing around. We talk about sewage all the time. That's what it is. It's raw monetary sewage that all these central bankers have just pumped into the beautiful, pure ocean of the free market. And it's nothing left of toxicity, and everything in it has died. And that's what you see with this. It's just raw sewage running out into the ocean and killing off all life, which was the free market. That's my analogy. And this is where we're coming. So you just need to understand, and this is of course our opinion, that we gotta move away from such a high risk thing that used to be, the pinnacle and the best investment that you could ever make. Now it's become one of the riskiest in the world, because any currency at any time that is based on, printing money and debt will come to a point where they printed too much debt and then it collapses in on itself. And there's no way out for the US dollars. For those of you that believe that the US dollar or any other currency, the Chinese yuan or whatever it is, in its current form, in its current fiat form, believe that it will survive. It will not. It just can't. It can't. Like, read the history books, people, and you'll figure out very quickly how fast this goes down the drain.
As we always say, all fiat currencies eventually revert to their true value of zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD in China, which is not dumping all the U.S. Treasury. So it's important that we make mention of what's going on with Japan and Russia, the Cayman Islands, all these other examples in this report. And the whole idea is for people to have the education, the information, in order to make changes as an individual, be self-sustainable, financially responsible, and not depend on others, and not be centralized, decentralized, folks. So thanks for going into this with us, John. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,
Be the change.
Like what you see here, WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the ADL comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. Also, check our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also find us at steemit.com at Josh Sigurdson, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in Steem, the cryptocurrency. And also find us at the Red Pill Expo, which we have a reference link for below in the description and the comments as well. Hosted by G. Edward Griffin, amazing speakers coming out to speak this year. Don't miss it. It's in Spokane, Washington, June 21st to 23rd. We hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Bye.